Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update. It is Monday, June 6th, and we intend to cover a number of issues that are at hand here in Westchester County. We have as our special guest Assemblywoman Amy Paul, who's going to talk to us about the recently concluded state legislative session and many of the actions that have been taken there. Assemblywoman Paul, a colleague of mine, I served with her in the state assembly, is really an exceptional assemblywoman who has been on top of so many different major public policy issues. So we're very happy that she's here to explain some of the things that are in progress and some of the things that were accomplished during the state legislative session. We also have with us our new acting commissioner for the Department of Public Safety, our acting police commissioner, Terence Raynor. A formal introduction of him. He has served as our deputy commissioner for the last roughly 4 years, and we want to make sure you've seen him before at various press conferences, but we want to sort of reintroduce him. The appointment as acting commissioner has gone before the Board of Legislators, but we are looking at candidates for the permanent assignment, and as we've done in the past with any commissioner position, we go through a search process. We interview candidates, internal candidates, external candidates, and then when we think we've got the right combination, then we present it, and of course it always goes before the Board of Legislators for their approval. That is the check and balance that exists in the government, and it's a proper check and balance that you have both executive and legislative branches working in some harmony. Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins will join me. He will cover the next phase of where we're going to go with our airport master plan dialogue. We'll talk a little bit about what's happened already. Ken will cover that. And he will be chairing the next public forum that's coming up this Thursday in Dobbs Ferry. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the initiatives that we're making in a number of different areas. Let me just open up by reminding everybody that effective last week on June 1st, all B-Line buses are free. You can ride them without paying a fare for the month of June, for the month of July, for the month of August, and for the week of September that leads up to Labor Day. Up to Labor Day, the B-Line bus system everywhere in the county is free. The paratransit system used by those who are disabled is also free. And it's not just free for seniors, it's free for everybody. So if you want to take a ride to any one of our wonderful places to shop, if you want to take a ride to any of our recreational facilities, you can get on that bus without having to pay anything. If you commute every day to work, and it may be a commutation that takes you to a Metro North station or to a New York City subway station in the Bronx, it's free. It's free over the course of time. We've done this primarily because we have an inflationary cycle right now where people are being pressed on all sides by the cost of everything. And we want to make a statement and make a positive impact for those people who, where we can make that statement. We can't control baby formula and we can't control utility costs, but we're going to try to do what we can do. And I might add that in the weeks to come, we expect to announce some additional reductions of costs of county services that you provide. We've already cut property taxes the last 3 years, and so for those of you who paid property taxes in the month of May, you would see a reduction over last year, and so the free bus fares is part of that. We adopted the state ability to cut sales tax or freeze sales tax on gasoline purchases, although we don't know how that's going to come down to the pump. That's yet to be determined. But we'll have some other announcements in the days to come, similar things. We are showing that we're pushing back on this inflationary cycle that we have and give you all a benefit. But bus lines, we want to repeat, free for this month and the next couple of months, and we hope you enjoy it, give you a chance to see a lot of Westchester County and enjoy the summer season that we're now in. I'm going to invite up next Assemblywoman Amy Paul. Amy has been active in the government and civic affairs of Westchester County for 30 years. She has served previously as the president of the Westchester League of Women Voters, and she has also served as a elected member of the Scarsdale Village Board, where she served 2 terms. She's been in the State Assembly now for the last 20 years, and she's established a credibility in a host of different public policy areas where she has written and had passed landmark legislation, not just supported a good thing, but authored a good thing, and in some cases managed to get those bills passed through what was then hostile legislative climates, where there wasn't necessarily a consensus of people who were prepared to vote for a particular bill, and by showing legislative dexterity, the ability to adapt to changes and to get a final product that was effective in a host of areas, domestic violence, a host of issues that affect children and women, environmental policy issues across the board. She chairs right now the corporations committees. She'll talk more about that, but she'll talk about whatever is relevant to where we are today in the state legislature. So we're very happy to have her as a colleague and a friend, and we're very happy that she represents us in the New York State Assembly. I introduce to you Assemblywoman Amy Paul. Amy, thank you for being with us.
Thanks, George. It's very wonderful to be here. It's my honor. Partly because of the friendship we've had for all these years, and probably even more significantly, the phenomenal job that you're doing as county executive. We're all just so appreciative as county residents to be able to use the federal money for the benefit of the for everybody, for everyday citizens, to lower property taxes, to take up the offer from the state to help lower the prices of gasoline. It's great to have a partner and someone who cares, and I know you care so much about the people. So, the state. We just got finished with our marathon session. In the Assembly, we had two basically all-nighters to finish. I didn't do all-nighters in college, so it's been a bit of a shock to have to do them as an adult in the state legislature, but so much, that's what we do. So we finished 8:30 in the morning after a real all-nighter Friday night, 8:30 in the morning Saturday. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with state government, we pass about roughly 1,000 to-be laws every single year. Most of them are revisions of laws we've already done to update them and so forth, and some of them are brand new. So we do about 1,000 of them. I pride myself, I like to pass bills. I work very hard at it. And so I want to mention a few things that I was personally involved in. And one of them is on everyone's mind, and that is the issue of gun control and the issue of gun violence. We had just come off of one of the most horrific gun tragedies in Buffalo, where so many people died at a supermarket. The last thing that our greatest fear, to walk into a common place like a supermarket and to be gunned down, how unbelievably terrible. And then right after that in Texas, with 19, mostly children, dying from the same thing. And in both of those cases, we saw 18-year-old young men with guns, semi-automatic guns, very similar in the way they bought them legally. And so we knew in New York that we had to do something. And we already have good gun control laws. Everyone knows that and says that about New York. But that doesn't mean that there aren't still some loopholes to close. And really working with Westchester a long time ago in my capacity as League of Women Voters president, and then as Women's Agenda chairing that, we passed great laws in Westchester. Westchester was always ahead, but we caught up with the SAFE Act, and now there was some additional loopholes to close. So the loopholes that we addressed include monitoring, and this was my bill, ensuring that gun dealers, where this gun was bought legally to kill all these people in Buffalo, are monitored. Gun dealers need to be able to be accountable to those who they sell guns to. We need to have records. They need to keep those records. They need to give them to the state police. We need to be able to track and trace crime guns so we know if they were used in a different crime. And all of those were built into the bill that I carried. And believe it or not, I introduced that bill in 2001, my very first year. It was the bill that I had the longest of any of them that I had yet not passed and made into law. So I'm very, very pleased personally. And I do think that it will help make a difference. Clearly, the state police believe that it will make a difference. And so we think that by, again, keeping the gun dealers accountable to one, making sure that there's video monitoring, which many already do, but not all, so that if guns are stolen, another common place where upstate, outside of the city of New York, almost 50% of crime is from guns that come from within New York State. So we need to get control over that. The other packages, other parts of the package that also is very proud to sponsor and vote for include monitoring social media. One of the things that we know is that all of these mentally disturbed people who have shot and killed so many post on social media. And so we need to keep and monitor that. And again, that is complicated, but the bill that we pass will begin that process. And I think it's important that we do that. Changing subjects. The other package that I participated in that, we are feeling and fearing right now is reproductive health. I never thought in my lifetime something that was achieved when I was in high school would be in jeopardy, and that is Roe versus Wade. I never thought that I would live to see that day, and unfortunately, it is soon coming upon us. So we packaged a group of bills. Again, we have a very strong law in New York, so even if it comes back down to New York, which it looks like it will, New Yorkers will be protected. But we're also making an attempt to protect anyone who comes within our borders, and any physician who performs an abortion is protected from any kind of accusation from an out-of-state potential civil liability or what have you. So we passed a bunch of bills to do that. I also had a bill in that package, but rather than go into detail, I think that the session for us was so much about those two issues. We also, of course, passed another 800 some odd bills. So I'm just going to mention one and then let you go on to the rest of your show here. I chair the Corporations Committee. One of those responsibilities, believe it or not, is cemeteries. Cemeteries are not-for-profit corporations, so I oversee cemeteries. I think I realized that most, unfortunately, during COVID, when they were overused and needed a lot of help in supporting families. But one of the interesting things that came up during the course of my tenure as corporations chair is another way for human remains to be disposed, and it's a growing trend in the United States. But I want to let you all know that now this would be an option, not a requirement, obviously, but another option for families. We all know we can bury in a cemetery. We all know we can cremate in a cemetery. Well, now we will be the potentially fourth or fifth state, depending on who signs what bill first. But we will also be allowing for someone to essentially bury someone above ground. And the environmental benefit of doing that is that there's no formaldehyde. The body decomposes in about 30 days, much quicker than underground. We don't take the space of underground. And essentially what happens to those remains is it's about a wheelbarrow worth of soil at the end. It's that can be either buried, it could be put in a memorial in the cemetery. Some of it or all of it can be taken by the family to plant a tree, to be part of your backyard, to do what the family feels is appropriate. So we will now have an environmentally best way of dealing with human remains. But again, it's a choice, it's an option. But it's really the way to go if we're not going to use up every parcel of land. And cremation is a lot of fossil fuels. So this has been advocated for by the environmental community. Cemeteries supported it. We'll see if New Yorkers want to take advantage of it. But it's it's a change, and I just want to make sure everybody is aware of this change. So with that, thank you, George, for letting me brief and be part of your briefing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's Amy Paul, New York State Assemblywoman, representing Scarsdale, Eastchester, Bronxville, Tuckahoe, Pelham, including the villages of Pelham, sections of New Rochelle and White Plains. And we appreciate her visit and her update. And as we go through future weeks, we will invite, as we have in the past, village mayors, city mayors, town supervisors, member of the state legislature as well, to join us here and give us an insight into some of the issues that affect them. As I mentioned before that we have free bus service. Those buses can take you to some of our best facilities, which are our pools and our beaches. And I just want to remind you that Westchester County beaches opened on Memorial Day weekend. We have 2 of them, and they are open on weekends throughout the month of June. That is the Glen Island Beach, located in the southeast corner of the county, facing out to Long Island Sound, and also the Croton Point Park Beach, which is in the northwestern part of the county, facing out to the Hudson River. They are open over the weekends and will continue all the way through the end of this month. And then on the weekend, the last weekend of the month, Friday, January 24th, we'll be opening the beaches for a week-long scenario, and that will take us all the way through the summer. And we do have buses that take you to both of those 2 parks so that you can go and cool off on the weekends. And if the weather continues to move from late spring into summer, you're going to want to have that opportunity at both of those 2 beaches. Our 4 county pools will open on Friday, June 24th. That's Saxonwood Park Pool in White Plains, Sprain Ridge Park Pool in Yonkers, Tibbetts Brook Park Pool in Yonkers, and Wilson Woods Park Pool in Mount Vernon. They open on the 24th of June. They will stay open through Labor Day, Monday, September 5th, and we're looking forward to having that. As I mentioned, we made the effort to reduce fares, eliminate fares on the buses to reduce the cost that people are facing. And we're looking at other ways to be helpful in cost control. And so we're having some discussions now. Some of them relate to our recreational facilities. Some relate to the sales tax realities. We hope to have within the week an announcement of some additional reductions of fees so that it makes it more affordable for people to interact with the county government and the services the county government provides. So, a couple of them may require the approval of the Board of Legislators, so we'll consult with Chairwoman Catherine Borgia and her colleagues in leadership on the board, and then some of them are executive authorities. We want to make sure we dot the I's and cross the T's and that we have the economics in place. But the bottom line is Westchester County has a tremendous park system. We have 55 parks around the county. We have 6 public golf courses. They've been underway since March. Would have opened on January 1st if we're up to the golfers. They're doing great business again for the 3rd straight year. We have our Bicycle Sunday program, which started May 1st, and it extends now into 3 additional weekends in July. We will take off the month of August for Bicycle Sundays, and then we'll resume in September after the Labor Day weekend, and we'll continue until the end of October. That's a well-received recreation. And we have our nature parks and preserves and a host of different places you can hike. We have a couple of parks that you can mountain bike in. There's just a wide range of things that you can do in the Westchester County parks. And we want you to be able to enjoy the outdoor weather. We're reasonably confident that we'll be able to do all of these things and enjoy all of these things without any COVID protocols. Right now, we'll talk about COVID in a few seconds, but right now we have seen no correlation between our various ethnic festivals and any outbreaks of COVID. We've already had the Polish Community's Heritage Ethnic Festival a couple of weeks ago. This past weekend, we celebrated Asian American Heritage Festival and the Albanian American Heritage Festival, and we have an upcoming week's festivals for the Italian community, the Irish community, the Jewish community, the African American community, the Hispanic community, the Muslim community. I've missed a few, but all of those different ceremonies, either at Kensico Dam Plaza, to the greater extent, a couple are at Ridge Road Park in Hartsdale, are wonderful activities, fun, food, dance, music, and a great way to celebrate the many ethnicities of Westchester County. And so we're hopeful that we'll have a good experience with that. We won't expand the pandemic, and that will give us something to make us feel like we're getting close to normal here in this society. Now, we've made an effort to deal with the issue of our airport by looking at a master plan that we hope to put into effect at some point in time, preferably before the end of the year, with the approval and the review of the Board of Legislators, having done a full environmental review on it. And we've begun the master plan process with public forums designed to get public input. We've had 2 of them. So far, we had one at Pace Law School 2 weeks ago here in White Plains. We just had one at Manhattan College at Purchase. So I'm going to ask Ken Jenkins to come on board and give us an idea of what's coming next in the airport master plan. Ken.
Thank you. Thanks, George. And certainly the leadership of the county executive, as we've been having these airport master plan hearings as far as public engagement, reinstating the On the Horizon program. The next one that we're having is going to be on June 9th, and this one's going to be at Mercy College. And the goal is to hear from the public on the future of the Westchester County Airport. There's been some tremendous turnout and hearings at this particular point, but it is also, again, part of that process. And as many folks know, in 2017, the previous administration had received federal funding to do an airport master plan, and it did not have the same level of public input. So the county executive's direction, we have 2 different processes that are going on. The technical work that's being done by a group of individuals, but they are also going to get first these public hearings and public comments. So again, June 9th at 6 p.m. at Mercy College, which is at 555 Dobbs Ferry, 555 Broadway in Dobbs Ferry. And it's going to have a similar agenda where there's from 6 to 6:15 informational sessions with written comments that can be taken, and those written comments can be sent. Go online to HPN Master Plan. I'm sure it's on the bottom of the screen. HPN Master Plan at westchestergov.com. So HPN Master Plan to be able to get that information in, or you can send those written comments to communications. As always, communications at westchestergov.com. From 6:15 on, it's going to be a public comment session. As County Executive always points out, that we will listen to every person that signs up. Last session was about 3 hours long, and we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to speak. But you don't have to come to the public hearing. You certainly could submit your questions or submit your comments online, and it's very important because, again, everyone has a viewpoint of the things that need to happen around the airport. There's always concerns about the activities that happen and the environmental impacts that have happened. So we have to continue to do that, but it is a critical hub, as we know, for Westchester County. This master plan supplement, and it's a supplement that will focus, and basically it's a really new master plan process, as the county executive always points out, that's going to focus on the analysis of the airport in respect to the physical condition of the airport property, the buildings, and infrastructure, with additional analysis of noise and environmental impacts and the local and regional economic impact of the airport. This analysis will first be used to develop a vision for the airport as we go forward. That information will be combined with the professionals that are doing the technical aspects of the master plan. We are going to absolutely have a virtual a public hearing for the next session, and that date's going to be announced shortly, but that will happen. Then we're going to have additional sessions, as the county executive has pointed out, in different areas around the county to make sure that we have continued input from everyone from around Westchester County. And then we'll have the draft document that will be prepared, and then we'll have some additional comments where people will be able to comment on what is a draft master plan, which will then go to the County Board of Legislators for their deliberation and eventual authorization for whatever the next version of the master plan looks like. We really want to make sure that everyone continues to be involved and participates. This has been a tremendous process. As the county executive always says, that we want to make sure that everyone has a seat at the table and their voice is heard. This is your opportunity. Please take advantage of it this Thursday, June 9th, starting at 6 p.m. Thanks, George.
Thanks very much, Ken. And I want to just emphasize that the master plan review at the airport involves certain very key substantive areas of public policy at the airport. We have invited people to come and give testimony. Some folks have come and expressed the frustrations they have with noise over their homes. And certainly noise and noise abatement is a critical part of the master plan. It is not the only part of the master plan. We look at environmental impacts, what impacts exist in stormwater drainage, which generally goes to the south of the airport toward Blind Brook, what types of PFAS pollutions we've had to spend money to fight to prevent it from going into the drinking watershed to the north of the airport at Rye Lake, questions of our voluntary curfew, questions of the size and scope of our terminal, the fixed-base operators that serve the general aviation community. There's a host of different issues that go into that. When you come to these public hearings, again, there will be tabletop exhibits that will explain elements of what goes into the master plan, and it's important that you understand that your input is welcomed. It's also important for you to understand that you need to know what the details are of what goes into a master plan so that we can try to make the comments pointed toward the effort that we have, and I'm very happy that Ken will be chairing the next one of these meetings, and we will follow up with a virtual meeting, which we'll announce next week for those people that won't go out into the public arena comfortably, and then we'll have some additional public forums as we go into the summer months in other parts of the county to make sure we're just making it easy for everybody to come in person, or as Ken pointed out already, communicating by email with an online communications, or the old-fashioned write it out and stick it in a suggestion box, of which we have those at our forums as well. So Ken, thank you for your involvement in that, and we go forward. Next, I want to introduce a gentleman who's taking on additional responsibilities now and has been with the county for approximately 4 years. We said goodbye to Tom Gleason, our Commissioner Sheriff of the Department of Public Safety. And Tom was a 39-year veteran of Westchester County service. We were very honored to have him appointed commissioner 4 years ago. It was August of 4 years ago. And he served admirably and well, and we gave him a fond send-off on Friday, which was his last day in his positions. So now I'm pleased to appoint as acting commissioner Terence Raynor. Terence is currently serving as the Deputy Commissioner for the department. We are going through an active search where we're looking at both internal and external candidates. And when we have gone through a review process and we settle on the final candidate for Commissioner, we will extend that appointment and then submit that to the Westchester County Board of Legislators. But I'm very confident that the department will be in good hands under Terence's service as acting commissioner. He has served admirably in police services over an extended period of time. He has an extensive career in law enforcement. He began as a police officer, and he ultimately became chief of the Mount Vernon Police Department and then commissioner of the Mount Vernon Police Department. And just to make sure I give you some of his bullets, he is a Mount Vernon resident. Graduated from Virginia State University and joined the Mount Vernon Police Department in 1984. He spent time in patrol, uniformed task force, and in the motorcycle unit. He's been promoted in the department numerous times, serving as a sergeant, a lieutenant, and as captain. In 2002, he was appointed the acting chief of the Mount Vernon Police Department, and the following year he was appointed as chief. So there is a certain amount of precedent involved in these things. He was a chief criminal investigator for the Westchester County District Attorney in 2006, and in 2013 he returned to the Mount Vernon Police Department to serve as police commissioner. Terence has received law enforcement training from the New York City Police Department, the FBI, and the Drug Enforcement Administration. He's a graduate of the Federal Bureau of Investigation's National Academy, the 201st class, and he's been with the County Department of Public Safety since 2018. We are very pleased that Terence has agreed to take on the responsibilities of acting commissioner, which is the full responsibilities of the job, and I'd like for him to come just say a few words of greeting. You've seen him before here, so he's back, but now acting commissioner, Terence Raynor.
Thank you for the introduction, County Exec Latimer. I also want to thank you and your team for having the confidence in my ability to step into the role of acting police commissioner. Backed by 30-plus years of law enforcement experience, more than 20 of those years working in a supervisory or administrative role, I stand committed to the forward movement of this agency and expect a seamless transition into this role. As I lead this department in fulfilling its mission, I pledge to continue working with our local, our state and federal partners to ensure a safe Westchester County becomes safer as we move forward. I anticipate collaborating with other agencies and county government in matters of mutual concern. Operating within a silo is not an option. Government agencies working together proves to bring about creative solutions to challenges which affect the county as a whole. One example is Project Alliance. The recommendation came from the work of the Police Reform and Reimagining Task Force. The county executive tasked Commissioner Michael Orth and his team from the Community Mental Health Department with taking the lead and working with other county departments, including public safety, to put together and roll out the mobile crisis response teams. Initiatives like this benefit the entire county. And that's just one example of a successful collaboration between agencies. I consider myself fortunate to have an excellent senior staff working with me hand in glove to pursue the mission of the Westchester County Department of Public Safety. I am counting on my senior staff, sworn members of the department, and civilian employees to maintain the highest standards of professionalism, respect, courtesy, and civility. I look forward to engaging the communities we serve directly, the village of Mount Kisco and the town of Cortland. The county police stands ready to provide needed support to law enforcement agencies throughout this region. Again, to our county executive and to his senior staff, I certainly appreciate this opportunity, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to have you with us today. That's now Acting Commissioner, Sheriff of the Westchester County Department of Public Safety, Terence Raynor, and we're very happy to have him in that role, and we'll continue to update you on any of the major personnel changes that we make throughout Westchester County government, as we've done in the past. Whenever we have a new commissioner on board, we like to bring them in and introduce them to you. There'll be some additional announcements and some additional department changes, and we'll try to provide that for you in these updates. I want to touch on a couple of things that relate to health, and I do have some statistics on COVID that will be helpful to me. But I want to touch on two other health issues that have been in the news, and just to give you a sense that we are aware of and trying to anticipate problems that might come up in some areas of other public policy. We've seen some cases that relate to a disease called monkeypox, and that there are a number of cases that have made it to New York City. Those cluster of cases have appeared in a couple of countries that don't normally get monkeypox. Monkeypox has been generally identified with some of the travel that comes from Nigeria in West Africa, and the most recent cases do not have a direct travel-associated exposure. So medical professionals from our national CDC are looking at the issues that deal with this. The contacts that may expose a person to monkeypox should be monitored for symptoms for up to 21 days of their last exposure. The types of symptoms you would expect to get: fever and chills, particularly skin rashes. And that's an important situation. Nearly everybody that is affected by monkeypox has fever and obvious skin rashes, which will be noticeable. There's no specific treatment for the infection. There are antivirals that may help limit some of the issues. If at all you feel that you have received some type of different rash and different illness, please consult your medical professional immediately. Talk to them, let them know what types of issues you might have. If you've traveled to any of the countries, again, primarily in Africa, where cases have been reported, or if you've had contact with a person who has developed rashes or received a diagnosis of confirmed or suspected monkeypox, once again, please consult your physicians. From Westchester County's standpoint, we have a very active, as you've seen throughout the COVID crisis, communicable disease component within our Department of Health. We're watching this, monitoring this, determining if there are any signs of this presence in Westchester County. If there is, there'll be public announcement of it. We want to show that we're anticipating being ready for it, but not that there's any sort of a widespread or crisis. It is a different type of transmission than COVID. COVID is an airborne transmission. Monkeypox generally involves direct contact with a person who has the disease, more so than just an airborne transmission. But that doesn't minimize the disease, it just means it's different, and we have to watch it in different ways. But when you hear these things on television or in other media, naturally people are concerned. They want to know how fearful should you be, and I think the bottom line is you should be vigilant, and particularly fever and rash combination may indicate that there's an issue, and you want to talk to your healthcare professional and help them determine it. There have been some cases, I believe in the Bronx, for Legionnaire's disease. This is a disease that was sort of titled that going back to the mid-1970s when there was an American Legion convention in Philadelphia at a hotel where a number of people contracted the disease and died. It is a disease in which bacteria grow in particularly warm water that are found in particular types of entities, and the bacteria grows, and then when the individual is exposed to those bacteria, they become ill. It is noticeably something that is attached to those where we have cooling towers above a public structure. That was the case in the Bellevue Stratford in Philadelphia, and that's the case in some of the issues that have happened here. It also may be found that bacteria may flourish in large plumbing systems, decorative fountains that are not properly maintained. The breathing in of Legionnaire bacteria is what then triggers the disease. It can be a mild respiratory illness, or it could also lead to pneumonia, and in certain cases it could lead to death. Once again, the relative health of the individual is always a factor. Advanced stage or underlying health issues makes you more vulnerable to this. This is a bacteria-driven, not a virus, but also our concerns. Again, those who are 50 years of age and older are more vulnerable. Current or former smokers, those who've had chronic lung disease, and those with compromised immune systems. So should we see cases reported in an area, it usually ties to a geographic reality. It is usually an area where the bacteria spread, again, cooling towers, some of the other things I've mentioned, and so it becomes more of a site-specific rather than a societal disease. But when you hear incidents of Legionnaire's disease, understand that our public health department is on top of that. They're trying to take measures whenever there is a reported case of Legionnaire's disease to go out and deal with it immediately. But the communicability factor is different between Legionnaire's and COVID, as it is different with monkeypox. The most important thing to know is that we have terrific professionals in public health in the county of Westchester, the state of New York, certainly in the city of New York, and we're staying on top of these issues so that we can provide as much public safety as we can. On the COVID front, we've seen an interesting sort of movement in terms of infections. I don't need to track the whole course of this over 2+ years. We had an increase earlier in the spring of cases, active cases. We were down very low in March, and most everybody felt we were past it. We weren't past it. We started to rise again, and we got up in the vicinity of 5,000 active cases. We are back down at the last reading as of yesterday to 3,600 active cases of coronavirus in Westchester County. That number is comparable to where we were a month ago, but we've gone up and now we've come back down. I think we're watching now the sort of settling in of reality in which there will always be something to the tune of 5 or 7% of the people that get tested will be determined positive. Keep in mind, a 5%, 7% infection rate means that 93% or 95% of the people have tested negative for coronavirus, and that's a good sign. That does not take into account people who've done home testing, which is not reported into the state system. As of the most recent information we have 116 people hospitalized for coronavirus. That number is down from 2 weeks ago, up a little bit over where we were a month ago. So once again, the bell curve scenario is at force, but we're still at 100 or 125 hospitalizations, still a very low number compared to where we were in the Twin Peaks, if you will, of the infection, where we reached 700 people hospitalized, 2,700 beds in Westchester County. So we in Westchester were never at a point where our healthcare system could not handle COVID. We think we're in now a maintenance period. With the most recent increases, we've made no particular restrictions to behavior, and we're not watching any super spreader results come from the various events we've had as we've started the Heritage Festivals. No direct connection to that, no direct connection to any of the operations of county government in our parks and our office buildings. So we're hopeful that we're watching the beginning of a more stable period. Now that we're outdoors, it is less communicable outdoors, and so we'll see what happens as we get closer to the fall. And then I think the most important thing is vaccinations, continues to be vaccinations. Westchester has a high percentage of people that have been triple vaxxed, and some reasonable number of people who've received a fourth vaccination as appropriate. And pediatric vaccinations still is a number that's lower than it might be, but it's rising, and we're certainly making it available with a variety of clinics. We continue to provide vaccination availability at our 2 clinics in Yonkers and in White Plains, and those are the 2 primary places. But you can also be vaccinated perhaps at your local pharmacy. You can call ahead and check with them, your medical practice, at hospitals, a host of different places. And the testing side of it, similarly, we've shut all of those operations down at the county center. We're returning the county center to its original purpose of being a recreational facility. But in terms of being able to get tested for COVID, there are numerous places now where you can get the PCR test and know whether or not you've been exposed to the disease or you have the disease. And the at-home testing capacity now is plentiful. It's been almost 6 months since the end of the year holiday season when it was a precious effort to be tested. Testing has now been made available across the board. You can see how we move from one crisis to the next. Once a crisis is addressed and reasonably solved, we're not worrying about getting tests now. Now we're on to other things in the society that are more timely. But I think we look at the COVID crisis as a continuation that will be with us for a while. We've noted that the fatality numbers have been relatively flat. Every fatality is a tragedy, and you don't want to minimize the death of a neighbor, a friend, a loved one. But we have had really a very small level of vulnerability to fatalities now over the last few months. We hope it reaches 0 and stays at 0 for an extended period of time. But we're approaching the point at which we're less than 1% fatality, meaning that out of the 275,000 cases of coronavirus that have occurred in the county, 22,733 people have lost their lives. So as you can see, the percentage is about 1%, a little under 1%. And we're hopeful that that percentage drops as we have a flat level of fatalities going forward. But we'll see how it plays out, and we'll continue to give you updates, perhaps certainly not every day as we did 2 years ago when we were in the heart of the pandemic's expansion. But we'll certainly tell you as well when you can get vaccinations from central locations, and hopefully that will all help you. So we've reached the end of our presentation for today. I want to thank Acting Commissioner Terence Raynor for joining us today and for sharing his thoughts as he takes on these responsibilities. I'm grateful for the time of Assemblywoman Amy Paul to talk about state issues. And of course, Ken Jenkins, you'll see him live and in person if you want to be at the Mercy College Dobbs Ferry Public Forum that's coming up on Thursday night. We'll continue to have other announcements of key things as we had last week with the completion of the work on the South County Trailways, yet another major infrastructure project that's been completed and successfully so, as well as our announcement last week of free buses. We've talked about that already, so hopefully we'll continue to address the issues of the cost in society, and we'll continue to provide the basic services that the county is responsible for in a straightforward way and in a cooperative way. Lisa Reyes, who is with us, do we have any questions from the press? If any members of the press want to query us, you can reach out to Catherine Chaffee, our Director of Communication, at 914-995-2932, and we welcome any of those questions for myself or any of the other people that have spoken here today. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back again next Monday on the 13th. And then with the Juneteenth holiday following, the week after that will be on Tuesday. But we'll be reporting once a week with as much of these updates. You can reach out to us anytime you'd like. And we thank you for your time and attention. Be safe. See you soon.